In this comprehensive video series, we'll build something exciting together, a simple but fully functional recipe blog with several front-end form capabilities. Here's an example. So here we are on the homepage of the recipe blog we'll be creating in this series. The hero section contains the featured recipe and a list of the latest recipes. If we go into one of them, we get to see more description about that recipe. So we have the title, classic waffles, we have the breadcrumb, we have the rating, the average rating, as well as the number of people who have rated it. So right now, there are only 2 people that have rated this recipe. If you are either the creator of that recipe or an administrator, then you can see the edit button to be able to edit the recipe. Then we have the description, we have who submitted the recipe, so the author, as well as under what meal type was it registered. So is it breakfast, lunch, dinner? We have the featured image, as well as the ingredients, then the nutritional facts, like the calories, the fat, the carbs, protein, and so on. Then we have the timing, so the prep time, cooking time, the total time, which is the addition of all the different timings, as well as how many people can be served from one of those recipes. Next, we have the directions with several steps. And at the bottom, we have a form to leave a review. This form will only show up if you are a registered user, so a subscriber or an author or somebody who is registered. Then you get to see the form. And once you fill the form and you submit, your review will appear at the bottom of the recipe with other reviews by other users. Those reviews will be publicly seen by everybody, but the form is only seen by registered users. The other thing we'll also add is a favorite option so that users can add the recipe to their favorites. You can also share the recipe on different social media. I only put X in this example. Next, we can go ahead and edit the recipe. It will take you to your profile page with the edit recipe. And you can go ahead and just fill the form. It has multiple steps, and you can clearly see the steps marked. First is the basic info, then the timings, the ingredients, the directions, the nutritional facts, and so on. Then you can go ahead and submit. You can also go ahead and edit your profile. So you have the update profile, which is another form to update your profile. We have all of the recipes that you authored. In this case, I only authored one recipe, and my favorites will appear under my dashboard. So if I go to dashboard, this is the recipe that I added to my favorites. If I go back to that recipe and I remove it from favorites, so I say remove, then I go back and try to either go to my account, and on the dashboard, you see favorite recipes. Now everything is blank because I haven't put any recipe as my favorite. So in this first episode, we'll start by setting up the base of our website. We'll install all our plugins. I'll leave a link to all of them in the description. Next, we'll set up the custom post type and the custom metafields using ACPT. And finally, we'll create our front-end post creation form. If that's something that interests you, stick around and we'll jump right into it. The first step towards building a dynamic website is choosing a fast and reliable host. And for this example, we'll be using Cloudways, who are the sponsors of today's video. Cloudways provide a fast and reliable cloud-based managed web hosting. You can host using either DigitalOcean or AWS or whichever one you want, and I'll leave a link to it in the description. So what you want to do is go ahead and start for free, but I'm just going to log in because I already have an account. So I'll log in. So here we are on our unified Cloudways dashboard. The 3 things we need to create here are, we need to start with a project, which is a folder. Then we'll add some servers into that project. The server is like your PC, so we'll spin up with the RAM, the CPU, the storage, and so on. Then within that server, we'll now spin up applications, which are our WordPress websites. So let's go ahead and create those. So I'll come under the left-hand navigation to the flexible option, and then I'll choose under quick action to add new server. Then it will ask me to choose what type of application I need. In this case, I need a WordPress application. Then I'll give it a name. So the name is, what is the name of the specific WordPress website that you're trying to build? In this case, I'm just going to call it a recipe blog. Then what is the name of the server? Because you can have multiple WordPress websites running shared on a specific server. I would generally recommend that you use one application per server so that there is some security, but you can spin up multiple applications on the same server. Then under the server name, I'm just going to call it Devden server. And because I already have a project, if you didn't have a project, you can go ahead and now just create the project from here. But because I already have a project, I can just go ahead and select it. If you want to create a new project, you go back to the flexible options and you can see my projects, and you go ahead and create a project from there. In this case, I already have a project, so I'm just going to choose that project. Then you go ahead and choose what type of server do you want to use. There is DigitalOcean, which is usually the cheapest one. Then we have Vultr, Linode, AWS, or Google Cloud. You can choose any of the server options you want. I'm just going to choose DigitalOcean. Then the type of server, you can choose basic, general purpose, CPU optimized. You have to make your consideration, especially when you are dealing with a massive traffic website. So depending on the type of traffic your website is going to have, you would choose one of these options. And the nice thing is that you can always go back and upgrade your server. So in case you are having a server spike, maybe you first envision that you are going to have low traffic, but down the line, there is higher traffic, you can always come back and increase your allocation for your server. So in this case, I'm just going to say basic, and we're just doing a simple blog. So I'll just use 2 gigabytes. And you can see at the bottom, it tells you exactly how much it will cost you and how much you have to spend monthly. So now that we have that, the next thing we'll choose is the location. I'm in the UK, so I'll choose the one closest to me, which is London. Then I'll go ahead and launch now. Usually it will take around 7 minutes to launch. So once the server has been added, we'll continue from there. Okay, so now that our server has been spun up and our application has been installed, we can now go ahead and access our WordPress website. So if you see the different icons on the right side of the server, the first one says applications installed, second one, projects associated, and the members allowed on this server. So those are the 3 things. So I'll click on the applications installed, and then I'll choose my recipe blog. Okay, now we have the access details. Let me go ahead and open the admin panel. I'll click on the icon and it takes me to the login page. So I'll just simply go ahead and copy the username, then paste it, copy the password, and then I'll go ahead and paste it. Then I'll log in. Then I'll go ahead and save the password. Okay, so now I've gone ahead and I've installed all the plugins that I need. The main ones are ACPT, Bricksforge. I love using Command UI. Then the Dynamic Toolbox for bricks. These 2 are optional, but I'll be using them a lot in this tutorial. And finally, we'll also use show members just to add some user control, but there are other options like members, member press, and so many other ones. So now that I have all of these and I've added all the licenses and done most of the configuration, the first thing we do is we'll use ACPT to create our custom post type for our recipes as well as the custom fields. So now let's decide what the custom fields should be. So let's come back to our example, and I'll just go back to recipes and choose one of the recipes, so maybe classic waffles. The fields that we need here are, first we need a title, which comes by default, which is the post title. For the rating, is going to be another post type for people to rate, and then that will now use a relationship to the current post. So we have a relationship field for the rating. The description, I'll probably use an excerpt, the author, then the taxonomy. So in this case, I'll call the taxonomy term something like male type. Then we have a field for the featured image, then the ingredients. Usually the ingredients are like in a list, so we can use a repeater field for that. The nutritional facts, I'll probably just use a field group and call it nutritional facts. Same with the times, and the direction will probably be a regular editor field. So now that we've mapped all our fields, let's start creating them in ACPT. I'll come under ACPT, and the first thing we need to do is create our custom post type. So we'll go in order. We'll start with the custom post type, then the taxonomy, then we'll create, if we need options pages, we don't need it here, and field groups. So I'll start with the custom post type, and we need two post types basically. We need one for the recipe and the other for the rating. So I'll create a new post type. I'll call that recipes. Let me know in the comments, do you prefer using plural names or singular names for your slug? The single name I'll say is recipe. The plural label, recipes. The icon, let's go ahead and choose an icon. Let me see if there's any food icon here. Okay, I'll choose that. For this, yes, we need the title. For the editor, I don't really need it. I'll just be using the excerpt only, so I can get rid of the editor. And I'll just leave the thumbnail, the excerpt, and the author who created the recipe. Okay, then I think that's it. Can go to the next step. That's just for labels. We can ignore that. Usually they are correct. So next step, I want to make it hierarchical. I like making them hierarchical. Then let's go all the way down. The other thing I like to do is make sure it has an archive, because the recipes will have an archive or all recipes or something like that. Or you can just choose to create a regular page and then you can disable the archive. It all depends on how you like to work. So with all of that, I think that's it. So I can go ahead and save it. So that's the first post type created. The second one is for our ratings. So create a new post type. This time it's going to be called recipe-rating. This singular label will be rating, or maybe reviews. I think reviews is a better word. Reviews. Singular recipe review. Plural recipe reviews. The icon, maybe it'll just be an icon of chart. For this one, they are reviews by registered users, so we don't really need any featured image, so no thumbnail. Maybe the editor, because the editor is where they will write their reviews. Or you might prefer to streamline it so they don't start adding too many content. So I can just change it from editor, and we'll just use a custom field instead of the default block editor. So all I'll just do is the title, and that's it. I don't need any other one, and maybe the author as well. Okay, so choose the next step. As usual, I'll just ignore the labels. Next step, I'll still put it as hierarchical. Then I would remove the archive, because I probably don't need all the reviews. I only need the reviews for each of the recipes. So let's get rid of that. or it all depends on how you want to work. So let me know, do you think the reviews should have like a page for all reviews, or we should just have the reviews under each recipe? Let me know in the comments. I'll save this. So our 2 post types are done. The next step is the taxonomy terms. So I'll come to taxonomies, and I'll go ahead and create a new taxonomy. The slug, I like to use singular for taxonomies and plural for post types. That's my personal way of doing it. And for this, we want to choose breakfast, lunch, dinner. So I'll maybe give it a title of maybe meal type. So I'll put the slug as meal-type, singular, meal type, plural, meal types. Okay, next is the labels. I am happy with those. Next, settings. I'll make them hierarchical so that they don't appear like tags, but they appear like regular categories. And I believe that's it. So let's go ahead and save it. So we have our first taxonomy called meal type. Next thing we need to do is associate it with our post type. So I'll choose associate, and is the recipes. So I just choose the checkbox, and it does it automatically. So we're done with the taxonomies. The next thing is the field groups. So I'll click on field group. So I've created the general post type for recipes. We've now associated it with the different types of meals. So we have breakfast, lunch, dinner. But what next? The next thing we need to do is try to streamline the text so that it's easy for us to impute. So rather than having just one big block of text to add to our recipes, we can now give them some subsections. So one subsection is for the excerpt, which you already have, another one for the ingredients, one for the timing, so the prep time, cooking time, because those are repetitive instructions. We don't have to start adding them into the full block. We can just create the structure and then create some little modules that the people can go ahead and fill out. So that's what we need with the field groups. So I'll go ahead and create a new field group, and we'll give it a name. So this is the group name. For the name, I'll just call it recipe fields. Then next thing we need to do is to give it a condition. Where do we want it to be located? So I will add condition, and I'll choose the post type to be equal to our recipes. Okay. Then the next thing is the meta boxes. So add meta box, and then I'll give it a title. So this is now a title for the box. You know, when you go into your page, there are different boxes you can create. The main box is where you have your editor or your block editor, but then you can have several boxes underneath it. Those boxes can either be stacked one on top of the other, or we have other designs we can do, and I will show you the different designs. So let's see the meta boxes we'll need. So the first one, let's go ahead and see the example. We have our basic info here, which already comes by default with every post. This is the post title, the excerpt, the author, the taxonomy term, and the featured image. All of those come by default. So the next one we need now is the ingredients. So for the ingredients, I'll put that as one meta box group. Then nutritional facts as another group, the timings as another group, the directions as the last group. So those will be 4 groups. So let's start. Ingredients will be the first group. Ingredients. Then within that group, I will now add fields. So the field will now be ingredient again. So ingredients. And I'll choose that field type as a repeater because we're going to be doing them as multiple ingredients. It's not just one ingredient. So I'll put a repeater. And within the ingredients, I'll just give it a child name because you can have like text and image, but in this case, you just have only a single text. So I'll just put the single text as the child and I'll give it a name. So under the field label, I'll just call it a singular term of ingredient. and just be field type of text. So we have our repeater that will be repeating, and within that repeater, we just have texts. So each of them is just a text. We can add text and icon if you need, but in this case, just texts. Let me go ahead and minimize them so that it's easy to see. So we have our first one, which is the ingredients. I can go ahead and minimize that group. Then I'll create a new meta box. That's another group, basically. And the second group is for our nutritional facts. So I'll edit it and say this is for nutrition facts. Okay, add field. The first field is called calories, fat, carbs, and protein. So let's start adding them. All of them will be number fields because they are in numbers. So the first one is calories, and that will be a number field. Then I'll add, or let's just duplicate this field because they're all going to be the same. Duplicate it. The next one is called fat, and it's also a number field. I'll duplicate it. And finally, protein. Those are the basic ones we'll be using. Let me save it, and we can continue. So we're finished with the second group, which are the nutrition facts. Then the next group will be our timing. So I'll create another meta box. You don't need to create multiple meta boxes, but I just like creating multiple so that I can have separation. And you see why in a minute. So the next one is the timing. So let's go ahead and edit it. And this will be called timing. Add fields. The first field is our prep time. That will be a number field. We can add a description that the field should be in minutes and so on, but I'll just leave that. The next field is our cooking time, and that will also be in a number, followed by any additional time that we may need. Then that will also be a number, and finally, the number of servings. How many people can we serve with that meal? So that is servings, and that's also a number. Okay, so we have our next field for our timings. Let's minimize that. And finally, we'll have one for our directions. So that will be called directions. And add field. For the directions, it's just going to be a single block, which is maybe like an editor block. Or you can choose to make them another repeater field. It all depends on how you want to approach it. But I'm just going to use one block. So for that, I'll just call it steps. And that will be an editor field. So let's search for editor. So that's like a rich text field, basically. And yeah, we're done with our fields. So we have our 4 groups. And finally, let's go ahead and choose how it will display. This is where the interesting part comes in. Because we have now grouped them, we can now display them in different ways. So you can choose either standard view, an accordion, horizontal tabs, or vertical tabs. I prefer to use horizontal tabs, so I'll use that. To create our front-end form, I'll be using Bricksforge Pro Forms. So let's go ahead and set it up, and we'll create a new page, and I will add our form into that page. So here we are back on the dashboard. I'll go over to Bricks and then Bricksforge. And then under Elements, I'll make sure I have the Pro Forms active. Next, under Extensions, make sure I have the Dynamic Data Tags active. And that's it. So those are the 2 features we'll be using for today's video. So now I can go ahead and create a new page. Since I have Command UI, I can just press the C key. It will allow me to create a new page. And I'll give it a title of Add Recipe. Let's go ahead and publish that. Publish it. And I will edit with Bricks. At the moment, there is no styling, so there is no header, there is no footer template, nothing. I'm just editing the page first to show you how to add the form. Later, I will now add all of the styles. I love working with the keyboard, so I'll show you some useful keyboard shortcuts. If you press Ctrl-Shift-E, it takes you to the element search, and you can simply search for whatever element you need. In this case, the section is already there, so I'll just press the tab key twice, and I'm on the section. Press the enter key. Now I have the section and my container, which is in the structure panel. If I want to highlight the container, I'll press the Ctrl-Shift down to first highlight the section, then Ctrl-Shift right arrow key to highlight the container. Now that I'm in the container, if I want to add some extra elements, like I want to add a heading and the pro form, I'll do the same thing, Ctrl-Shift E to get back to my element search. Then I'll search for a heading, tab key, enter, shift tab, and I'll search for the pro form, tab key, enter. So I have my two elements. Now they are side by side. I can add a class name to my container. So what I'll do first is I'll press Ctrl-Shift, the right arrow key, and then back with the left arrow key. So I'm now highlighting my container. Then I can press Ctrl-Shift F to take me to the settings search, then Shift tab, and I'm back to my global classes. All I have to search for here is the column. Press the down arrow key because it's a select field. So you use the up and down arrow key to go into the select field. So down arrow key and then enter. So I've added the class name and it has set it to have a flex direction of column. So that is done. And you can keep doing that for your other elements, but for now, I'm just going to be using the mouse. So let me highlight the heading and say I want it to be a H1. I am a heading. Let's say I wanted to say add new recipe. Okay, we have the heading. You might give it a class name and do some styling, but this example is just going to be focusing on the structure rather than styling. The only thing I will style a bit is the pro form itself because I need to be able to see the form elements because they are quite small by default. So I'll go to pro forms, then I'll give it a class name of maybe DJ Pro Forms. Okay. Then I will now give it some styles. So under the global field styles, I want to increase the font size for the label. So the label typography, I'll say I want it to have a bigger text. I'm using Core Framework. So whenever I right click, it opens a contextual menu and shows me all of my CSS utility classes that I have. So I'll say I want it to be maybe a large, and yeah, I think it's bold enough. Then I also want to make the border around the input a bit thicker. So I'll go under border and I'll set all sides to be 2 pixels, just so that it's easier to see, and make it a solid color. And the color should be, this is the right click menu. I can choose that I want it to be something dark. Okay, so we have our color in there, and that's it. We may also need to style some of the inputs as well, but that's for later. So now that we have our initial form, the first thing I'll need to do is now add some form field elements that map to our ACPT field groups. So let me go ahead and open the ACPT fields. Then we start to do a one-to-one mapping. So where we need a text field, we'll map it to a text field from our pro form. So I'll use the command UI again, just press double shift, and I'll search for ACPT field groups. Let me press then Control Enter to open in a new tab. Now that I'm in my field groups, I'll search for the recipe fields. Let's go ahead and edit it. Because my screen is too big, I have to scroll a bit to the right and then edit. Okay, so we have our fields. So the fields that we need are, we need a repeater field for our ingredients. But before that, we need some fields for the basic inputs. So we need a field for the recipe title. Then we need a field for our featured image. We need a field for our taxonomy term for the mail type. And we need a field for our excerpt. Those are from the core. Then we also need fields from ACPT. So let's start with the core fields. I'll go ahead and maybe delete the email. We don't need an email, but we need the text field for our recipe title. and we need the text area field for our excerpt. The other two fields we need are a file field, which is for the featured image, and probably a select field so the person can select whatever meal type they want. So is it a breakfast meal, a lunch, a dinner, or a snack, or whatever. So that is going to be a select field. So those are the 4 core fields that we need. Let me rearrange them a bit. Okay, so this is the thumbnail. Then we have the excerpt, and we have the meal type, which is the taxonomy term. After these 4 fields, we'll be doing the same thing for the rest. So I'm just going to tell you the fields I'm using. Then I'll go ahead and add them so that we can save time. So the fields I'll be adding are a repeater field for the ingredients. Then I'll add some number fields for the different nutrition facts, about 4 number fields. So calories, fat, the carbs, and the protein. That's 4 number fields. Then I'll add 4 other fields for my timing, which are also number fields. And we'll keep going down. The last thing is the directions, which is just going to be an editor field, which is a rich text field. So those are the fields that we need. I'll add them and we'll continue from there. So I'll add them and then rename them so that it's easy for us to follow along. So I've gone ahead and I've finished labeling all of them. If you go under the general tab, you can see they all have labels. The thumbnail, the same label that is in the editor is the same one that I put in the structure panel. So now we are done with that. There are some fields that we need to pay extra attention to. The first one is the file field. We need to do some extra customization. So I'll go to the thumbnail, which is the file field, and I'll go under the config. Then I want to make some configuration. First, the maximum number of files. We need only 1 file. Should they replace the file that exists? Yes. Maximum size, I'll give it 1 MB. You can reduce the size if you need. Then that is it. The other thing we need to do is allowed file types. You can decide to limit it to some file types. I like to limit it. So I'll use image-jpg, image-jpeg, image-png, image-webp. You can also add AVIF if you do that. But I think these are the ones I normally use. Okay, so that's it. You can now save it. The other thing you may want to do is come under the styles and you set the file poster width to probably 33%, just so that it's not too massive on the page. Save it. So that's it for the file field. The other field we need to pay attention to is the select field, because we need to have something already populated that we can select from. So I'll come to my meal type. I'll expand it to reveal the child element, which is the option. So on that option, what I want to do now is go under the use query loop. I'll check that because I want to be able to show all of the taxonomy terms for the meal type. So we have not really created the meal type yet. So let's go ahead and actually populate some meal type values. So that's the breakfast, lunch, dinner, and maybe a starter. So I'll go ahead and I'll navigate to my recipe. So go to recipe, and I want to go to my meal type under my recipes. That was the taxonomy we created previously. So now let's go ahead and just populate it with some values. So I'll say I want breakfast, then lunch, dinner, and starters for starter. So we have these 4. If there are any extra ones, let me know in the comments so that I use it for the next video. But these are the popular ones. Then we'll come back to our field. Let me save it and refresh the page so that we can get the correct live values. I'll go back to my select field, which is the meal type, get the option, and now we can query loop our taxonomy terms. So click on the infinity sign, and I'll choose the type is terms. The taxonomy is going to be our meal type. Then the important thing here is that we need to show empty. So click show empty, and that's it. You can go ahead and save it. Now exit from the query, and we will get to the general. So under general, make sure you put the label as the term name, because that's what we understand. We understand the name. The backend will understand things like the ID or the slug, but for us visually, we need to see the name. So for the label, it will be the term name. So I'll click on the dynamic data tag and search for term name. Then for the value, we're going to be using the term slug. So click on the dynamic data tag and search for term slug. Save that, and we are good to go with the meal type. As you can see, we have the breakfast, and if we go ahead and search it on the front end, we'll see that the others are populating. So that's done. The next thing we need to pay attention to is the repeater field. So I'll go to the repeater, and the thing you need to note here is that the child element of the repeater, which is a text in this case, because we can go back to what we have as the example for our ingredients. You see, we only have a text field as a child element of the repeater. So that's why we're using a text field for our repeater. And the name here has to correlate with the name on our form field. So this name that we have here, which is the slug, I'm just going to copy that. So I'll click on it, then copy the slug, and we can go back to our form field. So under the text, general, make sure the custom ID is the same as that field of our ACPT. So that's it. We're done. I can give it a label of maybe ingredient, and I'll probably just hide the label because the group label is already there, ingredients. So we're just going to be adding new ingredients. And that's it. The next thing we may want to do, which is optional, is we may want to break it into steps. Because right now, everything is just a long list. We may want to break it into logical steps, similar to what I did on the backend. So we'll be using the proforms steps element to break it into steps. Let's see how it is. So here we are back on the editor. The three important elements we need are the previous step element, the next step element, and the step element. So I'll come to where I want it to start. And let's say I want the next step to start after all of the basic fields have been added. So just after the meal type, let me first click on the excerpt. Then I'll click on the plus icon and I'll search for step. So these are the 4 fields we need basically. We need the next step. Then we need to actually define what starts the next step. So that's why we have to do the button first and then the actual section breaker. So I'll click on the next and the step. Okay, so we have those. So let me put it after the meal type. So next step first, then we'll choose the step that continues after the next step. So those 2 fields are important. The next thing I want to do is also put it after the ingredients before the calories. So let me just click on maybe the text field for now. And I'll do the same thing. This time, because we are on the page 2, we need a way to go back. So we need a previous step, a way to go forward, which is the next step, and then the step element. So I'll search for step again. So I need the previous, the next, and the actual step. So let me just rearrange them. So first is the previous, then the next, and the actual step. For the previous and the next, in order to make them side by side, I will wrap them in a block element. Now with Bricks version 2.0, we can select multiple elements. So I'll click the previous step and press either Ctrl or Shift and then the next step. And then I'll right click and then I'll say wrap block. So now I've wrapped both of them in a block. This will just be the button wrapper. Okay. So we'll do the same thing. So just basically copy these 2 elements and we'll put them after whenever we have a step. So just click on the first, hold Ctrl and click on the second. Then I can press Ctrl Shift D to duplicate. I've duplicated them. Now I can move them to where the next one starts, which is after protein. they keep reversing. And finally, after the steps, these steps is actually my rich text. Maybe I should rename it as directions so it doesn't get confusing. For that one, we may not need to have a next step because that's the last. All I'll just do is add a previous step because that's the last button before the submit. So Ctrl+Shift+D, and I'll drop that into the button wrapper or the submit wrapper. And that's it. So save it. And we have our fields all set up. Let's go ahead and preview it on the front end and see if everything works. So go to the front end. We get our recipe title, thumbnail, excerpt, mail type. Next, we get the ingredients. We can add the repeater. Then we go next, add all of the calories and everything. Next, the timings. Next, we have the steps, and then submit. Or maybe I should name that directions. That should be easier. So once we're done that, we have our initial form set up. So I'll just do some little styling, which is give that button wrapper to be flex direction row and with a little bit of gap. And I'll add the actual steps element so that we can actually see what step we are on rather than just guessing what step we're on. So you can know that, okay, there are 4 steps. We are done with the first step. We can go to the second step and so on. So we have our fields set up. The other thing, like I said, is the actual steps element. So before the pro forms, after the heading, I'll press Ctrl+Shift+E and I'll search for the steps, and that's the pro form steps. Then we need to connect the steps to the pro forms. So click on the pro forms. Under connection, you need to add the form ID of the pro forms. So I'll click on the pro forms. Then I'll click on the copy CSS ID. Go back to my pro form steps and then paste that ID there without the hash symbol. Okay, then the step settings, you can decide what is the first name of the step. So the first one I'll say is basic info. Then we'll do that for the next ones. And we can give them some styles. For now, I'm just going to leave it the way it is. You can choose to style it the way you want. I can also choose to allow clicks. So now that we have those fields, I can now go ahead and save it. Then for each of the steps, so this step is for ingredients. So I'll click on the step. General, I'll change the label to ingredients. Otherwise, it's just going to be saying step, 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 which is confusing. As you can see, step, step, step. Now I've changed it to ingredients. And the last one is for the directions. So directions. And like I said, I'm going to change the label to directions as well. Okay, so save it. And we can preview it on the front end this time. We'll see the difference. So you see the difference. We have the steps. You can go ahead and style them the way you want to. We may want to left align them so that all of them are left aligned and you just give them a bit of gap. Or you can add some lines in between them so people can know how it is. You can style the active elements different from the other ones that are not active. All of that is under the styles. And I added the click so that you can easily jump between all of the different steps. And that's it. The final step is to now connect the pro form to our post submit action. So what happens after we've pressed the submit button? It should create our new recipe. So we have to now connect them together. So let's see how we can do that. So back to the Bricks editor, I'll head over to the top to the pro forms element, click on that. And the next thing we need to do is we go to the actions. Then you can choose that you want it to send an email when it is successful. In this example, I don't need an email. All I just need is for the form to create the recipe. So let me remove that. But I think you need to add an email so that you know that the successful form, whenever somebody submits a form, the administrator can be notified that the new recipe was created. But what we need the create new post action. Then we need to update post meta. And finally, since we're creating a new post, we need to now go into the new post. So we need to redirect to the new post. So those are the 3 that we need. I'll go ahead and save it, and we can go ahead and start. So we'll start with the create new post action, which is an accordion that appears after you've chosen it under actions. The moment you add it to the actions, a new accordion item appears. So I will now click on create new post, and the status is going to be publish. I want only logged in users to be able to submit the form. Then the post type would be recipes. We don't need categories because we have a custom taxonomy. So that's under the post taxonomies. Click on add item. The slug, let's go back to our taxonomy. The slug is somewhere at the top, as you can see. The taxonomy is male-type. So you can go ahead and copy that. Come back to your form and then paste it. So that is male-type. And the term is the term that we got from our select field. So let me click on the FX. And I'm just going to choose the male type. It's a single value, so we don't need to add an array. If it was multiple values, then we have to put a colon array. So that's that. The next thing is the post title. That will be mapped to the recipe title. So click on the FX, recipe title. The post log, that will be auto-generated, so we don't need to change that. Content, we don't add any content. All we are adding is the post excerpt. So post excerpt, FX, and then I'll choose the excerpt. The thumbnail, FX, and I'll choose the thumbnail. We are done with the core post items. That's under the basic. Next thing we need to now do is start adding the post meta from ACPT. So we choose the update post meta. Then choose the actual source. That is very important. The source in this case is ACPT. That will now give us some options that are added for only ACPT. So I'll click on the add item. And the things we need to do here are add post ID, then box name, the post meta name, and the value. So start with the ID. Because we're creating a new post, we don't have an ID. So there is a special tag we're going to use, which is open the curly bracket twice and type live_post_ID. Close the double curly bracket. Then I'll say I want only the logged in users to be able to access the form. The box name, let me save it. For the first item, we are checking for the ingredients, which is a repeater field. So I have to make sure that I choose repeater. So come back to the pro forms. The first item is a repeater. So is it a repeater? Yes, it is. The action is that we're trying to add the new rows. If we're updating an existing post, then we use update rows. In this case, we're creating a new post, so we can use the add rows. The box name, you come back to your ACPT field. So that's under ACPT. This is the box name, the meta boxes, that's the box name, and these are the field names. So box name, field name. So the box name is called ingredients. So let me copy that. Is the one that is in bold. Those are the slugs that we need, the ones in bold. So I've copied that. Then I'll just put that as the box name. Then the post meta name is the name of our actual field within that meta box. The name of the field itself is also the same thing, which is called ingredients. Not the child element, but the actual field. So I'll click on it and I'll copy the slug. Finally, the repeater ID from our pro forms. So let's click on the FX and the ingredients. That's what we need. Sorry, correction. For the repeater field, which is the ingredients, make sure you append array after the form field ID. So it's written in the description, after the ID of my form field, before the double curly bracket at the end, put the colon array. Let me go ahead and save that. Otherwise, it will not work. Now we can continue. That's the first one done. Let me go ahead and copy this live post ID because we use it on multiple fields. Add new item, and we'll do the same process. So I'll click on the live post ID, the box name. The next one is we are done with the ingredients. Then the next field is going to be our number field, which is the calories, fat, the carbs, and so on. So I'm just going to speed up the process. I'll do one of them, and we're just going to do the same thing for the rest of the fields. So you don't need to watch me doing it multiple times. So let's go ahead and do one. So I'll come back to our ACPT. We're done with the ingredients. The next meta box I created was called nutrition facts. So let's copy that. And that's the box name. The post meta name is the field inside. So let me just close this. The field inside is called calories. Let me copy that. And the post meta value is our form field value. So I'll click on the FX. And we're looking for the calories. And that's it. So what I'll just do is now I'll duplicate it. And the next one is called fat. And the field is FX and fat. In case this FX does not show, all you have to do is just come to the form field that we have. So like fat, if you click on the key icon, that's the same thing as the ID that you see in the form field FX pop-up. So that's the same thing. You can use either the FX here, or you can copy the field directly from your navigator structure panel. So that's exactly what I'm just going to do for the rest of them. I'll do all of them, and then I'll see you back here. Okay, so I'm done adding all of the fields. For each of them, I've added the box name, the post meta name, and the value from my form field. And I just put them in double curly brackets. So that's it. The next thing we need to do is the redirect. So we come to the redirect. Then, where do we want to redirect it to? The easiest way is you can click on the dynamic tag and then just search for the site URL. Then I'll put the slash, the question mark, and then I'll write P equal to the same thing we used the first time, live underscore post underscore ID, double curly bracket, and that's it. Save, and we have our form done. So now that we've completed creating the form, the next step is to actually test the form. So let's go ahead and put in some details and see if it will create a new recipe for us. So I'll start by giving it a new name. So let's say David's specialty. Then I'll give it a thumbnail. Let's just choose one at random. Then an excerpt. So write something. This is David's specialty. Meal type, let's say it is lunch. Next, you might want to style the form so that the buttons look more colorful. Ingredients, say rice. Tab. Get to the next one, and I'll say maybe chicken. Next, we're in the nutrition facts. So calories, let's say 500. It's a good idea to add the units so that the person knows exactly what he's feeling. So in the label, you might want to add the units. So if it is in kilocalories, is in grams or whatever, add that unit so that the user knows exactly what the value is going to be when he's feeling it. So 500, the fats, let's say 80, carbs, 50, protein, 45. I'm just giving random numbers here. Next step, the prep time, 10 minutes. So that is going to be in minutes as well. Cooking time, 45 minutes. Additional time, let's say nothing. Servings, let's say it's 10 people. Next step, and we can add our directions. Something like this is step 1, 2, and 3. And that's it. So I'll go ahead and submit. So now it's saved and it has taken us to the page. unfortunately is blank because we've not created a single post template. We'll be doing that in the next lesson. But we can go ahead and see the fields on the back end. So I'll go ahead and edit recipe. And you can see all of the fields. So the title is there, excerpt is there, the author, which is the current user. Then we have our repeater for the ingredients, the nutrition facts, they're all there. Timing is there. We didn't add any additional time, so that's why it's blank. Direction is there as well. So everything was populated correctly. I can go ahead and increase it. Then we can also see the launch was added and the featured image wasn't added successfully. There might be a bug with the thumbnail. I will check it out and we'll discuss it in the next video. So thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this first part of the video. If you have, please do leave a thumbs up. Let me know you enjoyed the video. If there's any part you want me to explain further in the next episode, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.